Welcome to the Precise Story. Today I'm going to talk about the steampunk movie Mortal Engines. Before this, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell for more videos. The film's premise is set in the distant future. At the beginning of the film, a voice tells us about the 60-minute war, the most catastrophic battle in human history. A 60-minute conflict that fractured the Earth's crust into 1,000 pieces. Later, it was rearranged in the previous continents. The few remaining people established movable cities called traction cities. Traction cities that can move on wheels when needed. As more of these cities sprang up, a system was known as municipal Darwinism. According to municipal Darwinism, larger cities, known as predators, can hunt smaller cities and take over their resources for survival. Towards the start of the film, a girl with her face hidden under a scarf looks out her telescope at the mountains. When she sees the big city of London coming, she flees to her hometown of Salzhacken. London, the greater predator metropolis, is attacking Salzhacken. When the officials hear that London is on its way, everyone in town goes to work. The engine starts and the town transforms into a vehicle ready to take off in seconds. While attempting to flee, London closes in on Salzhacken. In London, many citizens like watching the chase and cheering for their city. The Lord Mayor of London, Magnus Crome, then instructs the operators on what actions to take. People from Salzhacken attempt to flee, but are eventually apprehended at Crome's instruction. The city is then consumed by the predator city. Now the next scene shifts to London, where various infrastructures are found. It has museums where minion statues are revered as American deities. Tom Natsworthy is a low-class London apprentice historian who works in the museum. Catherine Valentine, the daughter of Deputy Lord Mayor Thaddeus Valentine, is interested in learning history and museums. Unlike other elite, she is kind and cheerful. Tom arrives to teach her about the museum. They walk around the museum, looking at antiques such as smartphones and laptops. When Catherine expresses an interest in the 60 Minutes War, Tom shows her a film of the conflict that he was able to recover from an old hard drive. Tom reveals that the Medusa is a quantum energy weapon. Medusa was utilized in the conflict and was responsible for the Earth being shattered into pieces. He then explains that the museum has a number of tech weaponry. However, their pieces have started going missing on a regular basis. He also claims that seniors aren't responding to his worries about the missing technology. He stored the weapons in his own locker so they wouldn't be taken. Herbert, Tom's senior, listens in on their talk from outside the room. Later, he sends Tom to a lower level of the city, but Catherine accompanies him. Meanwhile, the residents of Salzhacken are being forced to flee their city, which will be destroyed later. They are instructed to bring just their belongings and are not permitted to carry any weapons. The girl with the scarf, on the other hand, manages to bring a knife. Tom and Catherine arrive in the lowest zone, where the residents of Salzhaven are being examined. Their task is to collect new gadgets from the people of Salz. Tom is fascinated to see a toaster that is of the highest kind. Valentine, the deputy Lord Mayor, and Catherine's father, then compliments Tom on his knowledge of technology. During their conversation, a worker delivers a deadly antique piece of technology utilized in nuclear weapons and gives it to Valentine. The way Valentine talks about the weapon unsettles Tom. Meanwhile, the girl with the scarf approaches Valentine as he speaks to the crowd. She stabs him and says, "This is for my mother, Pandora Shaw." Valentine is taken aback when he hears the name. Before the girl may attack again, Tom stops her and pursues her as she flees. Both end up at Salzhacken, which is now being destroyed. They somehow manage to get past the demolisher and to the waste chute. The girl falls into the chute but is rescued by Tom, who notices a horrible scar on her face. Before letting go of Valentine's hand, she informs him her name is Hester Shaw and that Valentine murdered her mother. Hester then falls down the chute just as Valentine arrives. Tom asks him about Pandora Shaw and looks at Valentine in suspicion. At last, Valentine pushes Tom to waste chute after Hester. When his daughter comes, he pretends to be innocent. Later, Catherine and Valentine are in his chamber when she inquires about Pandora Shaw. He rejects her question, but Catherine is convinced he is concealing something from her. Meanwhile, Tom awakens on the borders of an unfamiliar area, and Hester robs him of his money. When he wakes up, she leaves him, but Tom pursues her. She is furious at Tom for sabotaging the strategy she had been working on for 6 months. Tom begs her to assist him in returning to London, his home, but Hester ignores him and continues walking. Back in London, the Lord Mayor is upset with Valentine for transporting them to Europe, causing them to run out of food and water. Valentine mentions his energy proposal and believes that it is the only thing that can save London, but the Lord Mayor is skeptical. Hester and Tom are sleeping at night when they are attacked by some scavengers from the south who hunt humans. An elderly couple arrives in their land-roaming vehicle to rescue them from the scavengers. They even provide them with a little room to relax in. Hester was injured while attempting to rescue Tom from the scavengers. Previously, she had dressed her wounds to some extent and lied down. After a time, she informs Tom that her mother, Pandora Shaw, was an archaeologist who loved to discover incredibly technological artifacts from the past. She cooperated closely with Valentine, who was always fascinated by her discoveries. Until one day, Pandora discovered something Valentine desired, but she didn't want him to have. That day, he killed Pandora, also slicing Hester's face in the process. Hester also mentions a necklace Pandora gave her before asking her to flee. A single tear rolls down her cheek as she finishes telling the story. Meanwhile, Valentine returns to London and pays a visit to the repurposed St. Paul's Cathedral, where he is secretly creating the nuclear weapon, Medusa. Valentine also grabbed the museum's lost historical technology for the same reason. He has realized that the small cities where he may hunt are disappearing and that London will soon be without food and supplies. As a result, he wishes to hit the immobile kingdom of Shan Guo, an anti-traction metropolis with all the resources London will want for hundreds of years. The shield wall, on the other hand, keeps Shan Guo safe. So Valentine plans to build Medusa in order to destroy it and seize control of the city. Following that, Valentine learns of a cyborg discovered in the oceans near a small town. He goes to see the creature when one of his companions informs him that the cyborg wants to murder Hester because she breached a promise she made to him. Hearing this, Valentine lets the creature go. Meanwhile, Catherine pays a visit to Tom's friend Bevis and asks him what her father is keeping a secret from her. Valentine pushed Tom into the chute. Bevis knows it. Catherine nearly doesn't believe him when Bevis tells her that her father is also involved in a secret project. In exchange for the knowledge, she promises to show him the historic technology that Tom revealed to her at the beginning of the film. Meanwhile, Hester is still sleeping in the elderly couple's car when Tom wakes her up. He claims that the car has turned south, implying that the pair has lied to them. Tom finds a way out from beneath the floor, but Hester is unable to jump due to her injuries. He refuses to accompany her. Sooner they are apprehended. They are held prisoner and auctioned off as slaves in a community. Hester is almost purchased by a man until a girl who comes out from the crowd claims her for herself. The auctioneer recognizes the girl as Anna Fang, a wanted criminal and member of the Anti-Traction League. She murders the auctioneer with a single shot and orders Tom and Hester to flee. They don't go far before the cyborg who wanted to murder Hester appears. Hester recognizes him as Shrike. Shrike approaches the two, who are fleeing from him. He almost gets them, but Anna saves them once more. Anna then takes them on her airship and tells Hester that she resembles her mother. Hester discloses how she knows Shrike after sensing the two's interests. It comes out that he found her after Valentine killed Pandora and has been her parent ever since. Shrike raised her and assisted her in surviving in the outside world. He is the last surviving cyborg after his species was exterminated. One day, Shrike was fed up with always seeing Hester sad, so he made an exoskeleton with the intention to transform her into a cyborg as well. Hester promised him she would carry out the plan. But as soon as she knew about Valentine's whereabouts, she fled. Shrike then pursued her in order to murder her for breaching the promise. Tom is taken aback by the story. The two are subsequently transported to the Air Haven, an aerial city where they meet other members of the Anti-Traction League. In this city, Valentine's suspicious actions have been exposed. Hence, they have recruited Hester to find out more about Valentine's plan. Hester informs them about a box for which Valentine murdered her mother. As they discuss the box, Tom recalls a day when a worker brought Valentine some ancient technology from the 60-Second War. He eventually realizes Valentine intends to reactivate Medusa, the weapon that devastated the Earth many years ago. He informs everyone that the package contained the computer core system used to launch the quantum energy weapon, Medusa. A crash drive, a form of key that overrides Medusa's firing sequence, is the only means to halt the weapon. Back in London, Tom's boss, Herbert, informs Valentine about the outdated technology Tom had hidden. He instantly sends his men to find the gadget. At the same time, Catherine takes Beavis to the museum but finds that the gadgets have been taken. The museum's overseer shows them a secret way to St. Paul's Cathedral so that they can see Valentine's project for themselves. They make their way upstairs to the church where they see a massive piece of machinery that Valentine calls Medusa. It has been completed and is now ready to be used in the battle. They hide behind a wall while Valentine discusses assaulting Shan Guo. The current Lord Mayor then enters the church and instructs the guards to arrest Valentine for carrying out the illegal experiment. The guards, on the other hand, remain in position, showing that they now work for Valentine. He finally murders the Lord Mayor in front of a shocked crowd. Catherine watches the scene to escape from the stairs. Later, the lights go out at the air haven, and Shrike arrives seeking Hester. As the entire city catches fire, chaos erupts. Shrike chases Tom and Hester away, but he fights with the Anti-T-Traction League members and eventually catches up with them. He is on the verge of killing Tom when Hester begs him to leave Tom. Seeing her crying for someone, Shrike realizes she has finally met someone she loves and is no longer sad. That implies he won't have to make her a cyborg. A severely injured Shrike gives Hester the necklace Pandora had given her and dies instantly. Hester, Tom, and the members of the Anti-T-Traction League are currently on their way to Shan Guo. They meet with Shan Guo's governor Quan to inform him of their Valentine's plans. Anna suggests launching the anti-traction fleet against London because if they strike first, the chances of Shan Guo's survival are less. Quan directs the guards to attack London before they attack them. Tom responds by stating that innocent Londoners should not be penalized for Valentine's faults. Quan claims that if there is another means to protect his city, he would use it. Everyone then begins to prepare for the war. Then Tom is taken away, which irritates Hester. Then an Anti-T-Traction League member, Safia, prays when Hester notices that the necklace her mother gave her has a crash drive inside. She and Tom rush to Anna to inform her of the finding. Valentine, on the other hand, launches the first attack on the shield wall, partially destroying it. It sends the city of Shan Guo into havoc. People have been pushed around because of the force created by the explosion. Immediately after the first strike, Valentine orders to recharge the system and launch the second striker. The recharge, on the other hand, will take some time. After the crash, Anna and the other members of the Anti-Traffic League, together with Hester and Tom, board their various ships and travel to London. Between the two cities, there is an intense air battle. Many members of the Anti-Traction League are killed in the struggle, but Anna, Tom, and Hester escape unharmed. Anna manages to hover the plane above London, and Hester enters, bringing the crash drive with her. Sometime later, she makes Tom handle the aircraft and gets herself to London as well. She attacks Valentine first in order to distract him and allow Hester to use drive to override the system. The missile is about to be fired in 60 seconds, but Hester manages to halt it in the final few seconds. When Anna asks her to flee, Valentine looks across at Hester. He then pushes Anna from a platform, killing her. Valentine approaches his daughter Catherine outside and urges her to accompany him to a secure location. She rejects him for murdering everyone for power and runs inside. Valentine's men kill all the operators inside the London control room in anger after his initial plan fails. Valentine has decided to crash the entire city of London into the shield wall in order to destroy it. Catherine attempts to apply the brakes, but the system has been corrupted. She informs Tom about the situation through the radio. Tom then requests Catherine open the engine gate. He flies inside the engine system in his aircraft and destroys the engines by launching missiles in the hopes of stopping London from colliding with the wall. At the same time, Valentine boards an airplane to take off and avoid the accident. However, Hester confronts the man and points her gun at him. They get into a fight and Hester remembers her mother had an affair with Valentine. The thought distracts her and Valentine gets the upper hand. She eventually manages to free herself and latch on to Tom's plane. When she is secure, Tom fires a missile at Valentine's plane, killing him. London stops seconds before crashing into the wall and all the residents come outside. They walk to Shan Guo, hoping to begin a new life. The film ends with Tom and Hester hugging and promising to travel the world together. So, the viewers, this is all we have today. Please visit my channel for science, fiction, psychological, futuristic, and adventure movies.